Welcome to Chapter 7, Branding in the Digital Era. So, these are some of the things we'll be going through today. We'll describe the changes in the marketing and consumer behaviour in the digital era. We'll define brand engagement and understand the brand engagement pyramid and key drivers of brand engagement. We'll have an understanding of digital communications and the various options available. We'll define the role of email marketing and website optimization as important components of digital marketing strategy. We'll have an understanding of the pros and cons of various social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, etc. as digital marketing tools. We'll look at developments within mobile marketing. We'll develop a broad understanding of influencer marketing approaches and how word of mouth and social influence occurs and can be managed. We'll describe content marketing and its role in creating brand awareness and engagement, and we'll describe changes in brand management organizational structure. So what's basically happened is that the growth of online and digital marketing as a means of communicating with and selling to consumers has caused a shift in branding and brand management. Now, consumers are playing a bigger and more explicit role in the success and failure of brands today. Now, as marketers, we know more about consumers than ever before, and we can employ different marketing tactics to reach and influence them. So consumer behaviour and marketing have evolved greatly, and this chapter looks at some of the changes that are taking place in the digital area. We'll look at brand engagement. We'll profile digital communications that exist for marketers. We'll look at some of the current issues around social influence and brand management structures. And again, keep in mind, because this area changes so quickly and so drastically, some of this information is going to go out of date very quickly. So what are some of the things that are happening today? Well, most of us basically turn to Google or other search engines when we buy a product. So this is in your information search, and this is nearly 100%. It's about 97%, but again, we know statistics can be varied. Consumers who search for product information from their mobile device, 96%. Millennials that expect brands to have a Facebook presence, 95%. Consumers who do online research prior to purchasing in the store, 89%. So this is, most of us now live online. So what are some of the changes in the customer journey? Well, the traditional customer journey implied a series of steps: awareness, consideration, purchase intention, purchase. But due to dramatic developments in digital marketing and social media, the decision journey has now changed drastically. And key digital area trends with implications for branding and brand management are things as, well, if the consumer decision journey has changed, how do we adapt to this difference now? There's a sharp increase in buying via online retail channels. Think about all the different websites that you use to buy and purchase items from. There's a shift in advertising and promotional expenditure towards digital channels. There's a rise of many-to-many communications. You have a huge increase in consumer touch points. We've got a huge amount of data availability now. We've got digital personalization, but also now this means that we have this loss of control over brand message, and we have a co-creation of brand meaning with our consumers. So now it's the role of the user experiences and also the growth of brands as cultural symbols. So think about when we talked about the clothing that you wear. So what does this mean for us? Well, it means that as brand managers, we need to now equip ourselves with the information about how the decision journey has changed and how this also varies across different segments of consumers. We need to make sure that post-purchase advocacy is extremely important now, because consumers should be encouraged to engage with the brand following a purchase. We have a huge growth in online retailing. The value of e-commerce sales was, nearly $500 billion in 2018. 60% of adult Americans would rather not shop in a crowded mall or store. Over 70% of shoppers believe that we get a better deal online than in the store. Um, Nearly 50% of men and nearly 35% of women aged 18 to 34. So they would actually ideally buy everything online. So think about how Amazon has got into this space. And Amazon continually disrupts retail through all the innovations that they have. So as brand managers, what we need to do is find ways to increase our online appeal, our online presence, and optimize the brand experience purely for online. Now, consumers will sometimes visit stores to touch and feel them, showrooming or freeloading as we called it last week, and then place an order online. And like we were saying, remember a lot of the statistics will change, but bear in mind the growth is there and it doesn't matter where we look. So what this means is that obviously with all these new things coming in, consumers will start to have new types of brand associations. In regards to advertising and promotion starting to use digital channels, there's a change now in how advertising dollars are allocated across online and offline channels. So from 2017, digital media expenditures were nearly $85 billion in the United States. And this exceeded TV advertising expenditure of just over $70 billion in the US. By 2020, online channels will be almost 50% larger than TV advertising. And worldwide, mobile advertising accounts for $100 billion in advertising expenditures. So, it's incredible just how much the world has changed. And this is why sometimes our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents look at the world and just sometimes don't understand what is going on. So we've got different types of communication channels. We've got one-to-many and many-to-many. So with one-to-many, what we're starting to have is we've got the traditional marketing involved. So things like TV, print and radio. And generally communication was from the manufacturer to the consumer with limited feedback from the consumer and things went wrong. Unless things went wrong, and audience were passive recipients. Now, with many-to-many, we have this interactive one-to-one communication between the brand and the consumer. This has become more common over time. It's this instant feedback that we can give through places like Facebook. And one-to-one direct marketing is starting to be supplemented or replaced by many-to-many channels like Facebook and Twitter and all these other sites out there. And this makes it very difficult now to control the message. And consumers have become broadcasters in conversations with each other, and they're engaged in two-way dialogues with also brand marketers. And we talked about the use of forums and different sites, etc. So we now have an increase in consumer touchpoints. And as a brand manager, we have more consumer touchpoints at our disposal. So it means we can engage with our consumers in multiple ways and communicate with our consumers in multiple ways. This also makes our marketplace global. Now, this increase in media options has made media planning a lot more complex. We need to create an integrated strategy across multiple channels. And we now need to look at the given customer journey and try and adapt to that as well. So attribution modeling, or understanding which channels produce the greatest return on advertising dollar expenditures, is now extremely complex and challenging, though there are some things to help us. So we have an increase in data availability. So we have clickstream data, advertising metrics, websites, Google Analytics, and a whole host of other sites out there that can help us. The quantity of information can become overwhelming for brands. And as a brand, we need to invest in tools for transforming the information into usable bits of knowledge. So for large companies, they'll have their own in-house team and probably outsource some of this externally. And for a smaller SME, this might actually all be done externally and outsourced. We will have insights into memberships, and our online behaviours of our consumers can actually help us as a brand manager improve our ability to fine-tune our segmentation and fine-tune our targeting and strengthen the customer engagement and sales. And also social media conversations increase a rich sense of data availability. Now, social media mentions for example, if our brand is mentioned on Facebook, provides us as a brand marketer some sort of information about the perception of the brands in the minds of the customer as well. Social media control rooms offer brand marketers the ability to listen to customer conversation and understand trends. And what we need to be mindful of, though, is think about all the data breaches that we've talked about in lectures so far, that consumer privacy must be preserved to protect the consumer trust in brands. We also now have digital personalization. So we have dynamic pricing. The same product can become available at different prices based on expressed customer interest. And you'll see this when you go into a website looking at flights, how the flights suddenly start to change in pricing. As marketers, though, because of this digital personalization, we can offer highly tailored messages that are relevant to target audiences. And we can tailor the message and the offerings to individual based on their actual behavior. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that we can actually micro-target consumers at different touch points and stages in their decision journey. So, again, consumers might react negatively to personalization because of privacy concerns, and this is where opting in becomes so important. We might retarget when consumers get ads for products that they previously browsed but did not buy. So again, shopping cart abandonment. So as a brand marketer, we now need to understand the key triggers that will work with consumers with all these multiple profiles in varying stages of the consumer decision-making journey. And for us to be successful in engaging in digital personalization, we must invest in a customer data warehouse. We must store this data, we must continually monitor the data, and we must also provide feedback. We need to have cross-functional teams to understand the customer's decision journey, and we need to have a process of testing and learning to identify what does and does not work. Now, what has happened is that this movement to digital has decreased the extent of control that a brand manager has on brand meaning, and this means we're starting to lose control of our brands, and our customers are becoming custodians of our brands. So now, as a brand manager, we must manage the consumer conversations without becoming the storyteller, which is extremely difficult for us to do. And some of the conditions by which brand meaning is co-produced could be firm-generated brand meaning, or consumer-generated brand meaning, or media and cultural influences as well. So this social media megaphone now amplifies the positive and also the negative stories about brands. And we talked about, for example, the customer buying strawberries from Aldi. So the challenge for brand managers now is how to assess and how to coordinate multiple sources of brand meaning in a cohesive manner. And some smart brands are willing to invite customers to co-create brand meaning in a very explicit manner. So now, user experience is the key to digital brand success. We need some sort of seamless user experience, simple, effortless navigation, seamless switching from one device to the other, and one operating system to the other. So whether I go from my computer to an Android to an iPhone to the new operating system coming out from Huawei, it needs to work across all the platforms that my eyeballs hit. We need to make sure that when we design online and offline interfaces, that websites, apps, and these offline environments are very easy to navigate. Brands can become cultural symbols. So, they can help a customer feel that not only are they part of something bigger than them, but they can feel that I can signal and connect with others. So we talked about, for example, Harley Davidson as an example. So this is different to when we talked about, for example, country of origin or geographic location, to that a brand, for example, made in Australia means our food is high quality. So our brands need to maintain the cultural relevance and authenticity as they allow consumers to friend them and participate in brand communities. And as a brand, As a brand, we need to make sure that we have cultural resonance, that we have an authentic voice and a genuine point of view. So what does that mean? Well, brand engagement. There's a greater emphasis on consumer brand engagement in the digital marketing and social media context. We want our consumers to be engaged, and they're willing to invest time, energy, money, or other resources in the brand. And we talked about how important this was last week. That this is one of our key strategic driving factors. And consumers engage with firms by donating time, money, or other resources that help strengthen the bonds with brands. So we have 3 levels of consumer engagement. Again, this was touched last week: low, moderate, and high, and unfortunately also some negative brand engagement. So linking back to the brand engagement pyramid that we used last week, consumers vary in their propensity to engage with brands and firms. So as marketers, we must develop different approaches to strengthen positive brand engagement. And we can then segment these consumers on the propensity to engage with a firm. Now, as brand marketers, we need to answer the following questions about our consumers' level of brand engagement. So, what is the shape of the pyramid itself? What is the size of the highly positively engaged group? What is the size of the not engaged versus highly engaged group? What's the difference? How many negatively engaged customers exist, and at what levels? Are there any trickle-down effects? Are there consumers who are highly engaged and who exert influence on those who are less engaged? Are there influences of the disengaged group and the engaged group, or vice versa? Does this reverse influence of less engaged or highly engaged consumers harm the brand? Do other people find out about it? And how, as marketers, can we stem this direction of influence if it is negative in nature? What are the flows of information and influence for a given level of engagement? And what does this imply for brand loyalty and purchase behaviour? Now, among those who are highly engaged, what are the most efficient means of marketing communications? Now, for those that are least engaged, how can we leverage marketing communications to strengthen engagement? So, understanding the different levels of brand engagement and how marketing communications can strengthen brand engagement is extremely important. So, with negative brand engagement, sometimes brand communities are negatively disposed to brands. Negative communities, though, can present opportunities for brands to redress customer grievances. Again, like the Audi strawberry lady. Both brand love and brand hate can become quite exaggerated in online communities, and you can see that, keyboard warriors would sometimes never say the things they say to people's faces, but are happy to do it online. And negative communities can also become the basis for social movements and brand boycotts. Think about some of the things that are going on currently on Facebook. Brands are also starting to be ridiculed and parodied, and social media now gives consumers unprecedented power to share. So, in regards to digital communication, as we start to look at the channel of distribution moving from sometimes retailers to also people being able to buy online, that this paid channel is one in which a marketer runs paid advertising, and an owned channel is controlled by the company, like its website, YouTube, or mobile apps. Now, an earned channel is different, so this is not controlled by the company. It doesn't cost the company anything, so it's going to include publicity, reviews, social media mentions, but like we're saying, a lot less control. So all these, paid, owned, and earned channels that we have contribute to brand presence and brand engagement. Now, the company website is an example of an owned channel. So key brand asset, primary marketing tool, metrics are all there. We can adjust, we can change, we can update, and it's probably, for some consumers, the first place they're actually going to go to learn about the brand. So we need to make sure that the website experience reflects the brand experience, and that we also show up in searches, preferably the first page. Now, email marketing, especially if it's opted in, is one of the most effective forms of communication. So here, segmenting, targeting, and positioning are critical. And the differences in content, structure, and subject line can actually affect response rates. And we can actually test for this as well. The timing of email campaigns can affect response rates. And obviously entertaining and engaging content helps improve responses. So here what we should be doing is actually testing different versions of the email campaigns to identify the ones that work and do not work, and then also optimize that email campaign. In regards to search advertising, this is where most of the digital ad spending is focused. And in 2019, it's about $130 to $150 billion in advertising spending. Now, search advertising, as you know, through Google, I can pay on a pay-per-click system, so there is no waste. But then also, this can get quite expensive. The conversion rate is metric, so I can now gauge the success of a search advert. And obviously, the higher the conversion rate, the higher the success of the advert itself. We can use display advertising or banner ads that we place on related websites. And display advertising is monetized on a cost per thousand or CPM basis, or the impressions generated. And search ads and display ads, when they're used together, are quite effective. So let's look at an overview of the social media pay channels. So social media channels like Facebook and Twitter give us unparalleled access to communities with similar demographic, geographic, and psychographic characteristics. And some of our social media roles are establishing a public voice and online presence, amplifying our marketing message, helping monitor and obtain feedback from consumers, and also promoting the customer segment. Now, social media offers a unique way for marketers to promote dialogue with their audiences and track that dialogue as well. So if Facebook was a country, it would be the largest one. Currently, 1.7 billion active users. In the US, nearly 80% of adults have a Facebook account. It's quite influential among young adults, with nearly 90% of Americans 18 to 29 having a Facebook account. Females are more present, with a slightly higher skew towards females versus males with accounts, and generally users are educated and live in urban and suburban areas. Now, advertising revenue comprises the largest source of revenue for Facebook, with about 40 billion estimated in 2018. So there are some metrics though that we can use that are relevant to assessing the impact of Facebook advertising. So things like reach, which includes organic, paid, and viral reach. Followers, which captures reach and popularity of a given message. Likes and shares. These indicate customer engagement with a particular message. Now, some of the pros of Facebook: large marketplace, connects with consumers. We have the ability to generate brand awareness among our users. Targeting, so great targeting capability. The direct purchasing feature, instant play videos, and continual changes also though in the Facebook algorithm and their technology. So as marketers, we need to keep up. But what are some of the issues? Well, Facebook is not going to reach every user. That precision targeting can sometimes produce suboptimal results, and sometimes scandals do happen as well. Twitter is the second largest social medium. The Twitter message goes directly to our followers, so this is fantastic for us. Easy to create, they're quick, shows our personality. So these are great things. Now again, Twitter is not going to reach everyone. Instagram, 400 million users, currently targets a younger audience, high levels of brand engagement. But again, also people have been found using bots to drive viewers and also to drive engagement. So Instagram is continually having issues with this. Huge engagement visually through images and videos, and it allows for this non-traditional marketing approach. Now, Instagram's audience, because it's quite cynical, sees traditional ads in a negative light. Pinterest is a way of sharing and posting pictures that different brands can use, and buy it pins. And video is extremely important when brands want to engage in deeper themes and storytelling. So think about the use of YouTube here, etc. Now, smartphones. We live on our phones. It's almost like as Gary Vee says, they're lifelines, or for some of us, they're our butlers. So mobile advertising. So mobile advertising and promotions are expected to grow to nearly $50 billion in the US for expenditure, and $26 billion in display advertising, and $22 billion in search advertising. As consumers, we spend more time on our mobile phones than now on our desktop, so we are purely mobile when it comes down to it. And social media apps reinforce the notion that mobile is primarily a means of entertainment and communication versus commerce. So, mobile advertising extremely helpful to send timely location-based messages to customers at the right time and place. We can now communicate with our customers in real time. And because the screen is so small, we need to be mindful that the ad copy has to be simple, direct, has to get attention from the target audience, and do this quickly. We can use mobile marketing messages to engage with consumers while they're shopping, and we can actually target these messages by location and behavior as well. So SMS services and MMS, or multimedia messaging services, offers customers the ability to get unique offers based on time and location. Now, in-app advertising in Snapchat and in games can drive consumer engagement for brands. Mobile apps can facilitate companies learning about their customers' motives, and mobile apps can be used to reward customers at appropriate times, increasing effectiveness. Mobile apps can also help companies strengthen their bonds with consumers. Now, proximity systems marketing, or geofencing, involves particular advertising messages that are delivered to mobile users within a defined geographic area. So, for example, a shopping centre. And serving up targeted relevant ads can benefit companies and customers alike. You walk past my shop, I give you an offer or a coupon, you come in, purchase, we're both happy. So the ability to reach customers at a time and place that is more relevant to their purchasing of a brand with mobile marketing, it provides marketers with the ability to target their offerings and engage customers. We can use push notifications. So this can notify our users about new messages or events or offers when they're not actually using the app actively. So what were some of the findings from research? Well, environments might impact the effectiveness of mobile advertising and promotions. Mobile targeting based on time and location is more effective the closer the promotion is to actual purchase, which makes logical sense. Targeting consumers who are closer in physical location to a competitor's location produces better results than targeting mobile promotions to consumers who are closer to the company's own locations. And I thought this was an extremely interesting finding. And targeting consumers with mobile promotional coupons can boost overall spending, especially unplanned spending. So who are some of these influencer marketing and social media celebrities? And you'll see them, for example, on YouTube, etc., and Instagram. So influencer marketing involves utilizing key influencers, bloggers, celebrities, topic experts, opinion leaders to provide information and opinions about products and brands. It's expected to account for over $5 billion of global marketing expenditures coming soon. Instagram influencer marketing is over a $1 billion industry, and the current stats actually have it nearing nearly $2 billion. So as marketers, we can utilize influencers for their brands. As marketers, we can utilize influencers for our brands to a greater extent because of the results we start to see with influencers. So that means we're probably going to bring more influencers on board, but what we're trying to do is make sure that the influencers actually have a real count of followers. And we can do this looking at engagement, and there is software out there to make sure that they're not using bots. Sponsored bloggers and advertisers and celebrities can actually hold a huge amount of sway over consumers, more than advertisers. And organic word of mouth is different from sponsored word of mouth. So influencer marketing relies a great deal on the authentic tone that is struck by real people. Content marketing, this is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. So it involves the creation and sharing of online material, videos, blogs and social media posts. So what are some guidelines for content marketing? A key difference between content and traditional marketing is that consumers typically want to consume the posts that form part of the content marketing campaign. And the goal of content marketing is to engage audiences in topics of interest to them. The selling of something should not be the primary goal. So therefore, understanding the buyer needs must be our starting point for generating good content. And content distribution is an extremely important component of content marketing. Now, how do we integrate this content with public relations and marketing? Well, a good content strategy has to be integrated with a broader public relations and marketing strategy. It all needs to link together. And the reach and engagement goals of the overall marketing strategy should be aligned with a content marketing strategy. So this helps reach the audience, build a brand, increase brand awareness, generate leads, and ensure sales. What are some of the legal and ethical considerations that we need to take into account now? Well, there are things like we talked about where you need to actually identify paid or sponsored content. That in some cases you need to actually disclose your compensation. And you can see, for example, online there are multiple search engines again to see which authors are paid and not paid and what they're bringing in. So that means that content marketing efforts need to balance this fine line between sponsorship of content and organic content that is not paid for, and that at the same time that we comply with the law. So what are some of these, what's a summary of the pros and cons of integrated paid channel marketing? Well, integrated across multiple channels provides a significant benefit to storytelling. There's a huge amount of good and bad for primary paid channels. So what are some of the things that we need then to do in regards to our brand management structure? And as brand marketers, we now need to have a strategy that continually evolves and addresses the shifts in advertising spending across all these multiple digital channels, and implement an organizational structure and processes that support this strategy. So what are some of the success factors? As senior management, we need to understand how products and brands are being researched and viewed via digital channels. We need to know what our customers are doing. We need to have cross-functional coordination across multiple departments. Data-driven decision marketing will become the standard operating procedure. So marketers need to have an understanding of data. Marketing strategy should now be viewed as part of our overall strategy. And high-quality data about customers can help us as marketers understand and personalize specific offers for specific customers. This allows us to give the customer exactly what he or she wants. Having an understanding of how online and offline communications interact with each other, and then coordinating with the online digital channels, is extremely important. So what are some of the companies that have done extremely well in this new space? Well, if we start to look at some of the companies, and we've talked about them very briefly, Amazon began in 1995, now a multinational conglomerate, IPO in 97, sells pretty much now everything. the introduction of Amazon Prime in the US in 2005, fresh food delivery in 2006, so Amazon Fresh, the Kindle e-reader, their acquisition of Audible, the development of the Kindle Fire tablet, drone deliveries. So Amazon has changed the way people shop. We now have Alexa. Amazon has a market value of over $250 billion. It's a market leader in cloud computing. They bought Whole Foods for nearly $15 billion in 2017, and they just seem to not be stopping at all. In the US, you have something called Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. China has a similar day as well, and this is basically when retailers offer specific deals to push forward sales. It's bedlam. So you have both online and offline campaigns. You have Dollar Shave Club that was bought for over $1 billion. It used humour to highlight its value proposition in the campaign. Huge levels of engagement, lots of customers buying it, and then bought by one of the larger FMCGs. So Google AdWords is the largest digital advertising platform. Most of the spend is split between Google and Facebook, and Google search accounts for about 80% of the $45 billion industry in the US. AdWords allows buyers and sellers to connect within the network of search sites, and what basically happens is behind the scenes the auction makes keywords available for a price that is based on demand for that specific keyword and other factors like the relevance of the landing page and prior clicks on the ads, etc. And payment is based on a cost per click basis. Now, as an advert, you can get impressions without paying for them, but the effective ads, or ads that are relevant in the keyword that have been successful in the past, can actually earn top placement in the search results at a lower cost per click than less effective ads due to Google's quality score. And this is obviously where it's important with your website to have lots of rich content and information, so in essence becoming a content sponge, so Google will actually rank you higher. So therefore you'll find better websites have lots of content that is all organic and actually built by the company versus just pretty pictures or brochureware that actually have no tracking at all. So companies will use possibly branded and generic keywords depending on brand recognition. Therefore higher placements are seen by more customers, and higher targeted ads get higher click-through rates. Now in China, WeChat is the dominant social media platform. Over 1 billion active monthly users, 10 million apps, so huge amount of apps for daily activities. And Weibo is the microblogging platform with over 300 million active monthly users. QQ, messaging app, and Youku is the video sharing app similar to YouTube in China. Now, Baidu Tiba is the Chinese search engine, and it offers businesses and brands the opportunity to create their own forums. So, there's a few things that we've talked about so far through the previous lectures. We've talked about co-branding. We also talked about ingredient branding. For example, Intel was a good example. We've talked about licensing, where companies will push their brand, and companies can actually then pay to use someone else's brand for a fee. We've also linked back to corporate trademark licensing. So this is where I might actually then ask you to pay for my trademark. We talked about celebrity endorsement and how also we need to be mindful that celebrities sometimes can do silly things and how we manage that. And we've got different types of sporting or other types of events. We can have third-party sources. So what does this mean? It means all these different things can actually come up and have the opportunity to now be branded digitally and online.